In TV shows, movies and video games, and media in general, something I've seen a lot of creators fall into is making one-dimensional, uninteresting and bland characters, who are basically used as emotionless dummies to carry along the plot without any regard to their own feelings and their own conflicts. And of course, not every single piece of media is like this, but I really wanted to talk about what was so important to me about Elden Ring's characters, as they are one of the few that really embraces the idea of fleshing out characters, making them complex, and not falling down the rabbit hole of this guy is good and this guy is bad, fuck this guy, love this guy. Turns out a small percentage of the people that watch these videos are actually subscribed. If at the end you have enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Without any more faffing around, please sit back, relax, grab some succulent, juicy, tender Christmas prawn cocktails if you will, and enjoy. There's 3 characters I want to predominantly talk about in today's video, but of course there will be other characters we talk about. Ranni, Marika and Messmer. There's quite a few reasons that I've chosen these 3 characters in particular to talk about in this segment of the video. The first part of that discussion is they're neither good nor bad. So much media and literature loves to go by this idea that you're either good or you're either bad, that you're a villain or a hero. But in reality, life is so much more complex than that. Some people can be a really good person and do bad. Some people can be really bad and do some good. It's a matter of perspective, beliefs and ideals. And is honestly a question as old as time, and it will probably continue on so until the very end of man. And I think these 3 characters intrinsically linked together are great examples of this conflict. Messmer is the child of Marika and some unknown bloke, if it even is a bloke and isn't some Athena mind babies from Marika. From everything mentioned in game, Messmer is Marika's firstborn child. Item descriptions suggest that Marika tried to help his affliction, but at some point or another gave up on him. For what reason, we really can't know, but this giving up, this sign of abandonment, seems to have really affected Messmer on a deeper level. And I think this becomes even more visible when we actually get to the point in the story out to the lands of shadow, to go and hunt the Hornsent. Now make no mistake, the Hornsent are evil. They are bastards who put people in jars and torture them. But there are children there. Any civilization needs youth. It needs young people to survive, to continue on the legacy of said civilization. So yes, he goes around and he kills kids supposedly, which is obviously, no need to say it, bloody terrible. But in the same sense, the people who were shoved into these jars were Marika's own people, Messmer's family. How would you feel if your family was slaughtered, put in jars and forced into abhorrent forms? Take into consideration that unknowingly you've been abandoned, sent on a mission that you'd never see a return from. What does that trauma of abandonment, the idea of being thrown into a world you do not know and being forced to either sink or swim, what does that do to a person? Likewise, Marika is also drowned in trauma. Her people were decisively slaughtered. In the same sense, they were a civilization. They needed young to survive for their civilization to survive. This suggests their children were caught in the crossfire. It's always been my interpretation that Marika went in search of the fingers of the greater will and the power of grace after the slaughter of her people, as a way to combat the losses, as a way to fight back. And yet it would be all for naught, for when she returned with the power of the grace of gold, with the power of the erdtree, they were already gone, already slaughtered and stuffed into jars. How does that affect a person to know that their sacrifice was just dust to the wind? She then goes on to usurp the power of the Hornsent, seal off their lands and make a new world for herself, a new order where she is in control and her loved ones can't be taken away from her again. Along this journey, the Crucible takes root in beings of her order, who later become known as Omen and Misbegotten. These creatures are treated as just that, creatures, when in reality their intelligence was just that of their fellow humans, only they looked different. And to Marika, they looked exactly like the people who slaughtered her family. Her actions are evil in this regard. The fact she hunts down the Omen and persecutes them for the sins of the father is plain evil. Yet this and other acts are done out of a place of trauma and out of a way that she sees is the best course of action. Does it make it right? No. But isn't it sort of understandable how one's broken mind can come to these conclusions? If you've watched the channel before, you might know that I'm not a big fan of Rani. But that doesn't change the fact that she's one of my favourite characters inside of Elden Ring. And it's for a lot of different reasons than other people. Rani truly is a tragic character. She is a person, a demigod, that is bound to the two fingers, bound to serve a fate that she does not want to serve. In her quest to sever this bond, to rewrite the fate written for her, she kills her brother. She kills multiple other demigods. She kills her own kin. She shows no remorse for this, and yet she masquerades the truth that she's looking to create a better world. She implies that she's doing this because it's what the world needs, and yet the truth of the matter, which I find so interesting, is she is a deeply flawed character. A hubris and greed which eventually leads to the downfall of everyone around her. Everyone around her dies. Everyone around her loses their mind. She is at the centre of so much suffering, and what I find really tragic is she herself seems to believe this lie that she is doing this for others. But the truth of it can be seen inside the Knight of Black Knives, where she kills other demigods. Item descriptions only say she needed to have killed Godwyn, and yet other demigods are slew. There are multiple ideas that are given to us through item descriptions that Rani isn't purely innocent, that the Knight of the Black Knives and similar incidences were not just out of the need for change, but instead out of the need of Rani's heart. People like to say the Age of Stars ending is good, that it separates the lands between and the outer gods, but in reality we don't see this ending. We do not know what it entails. These three characters are, in my opinion, the epitome of what a complex and tragic character should be. Each character does wrong, and yet each character is also good. Each character has baggage. Each character reacts in ways they probably shouldn't, yet how they react is very human in its logic, and it feels like something that, given their circumstance, we would do. A great example of this is Rani. We really don't know the extent of the trauma that Rani has. Rani was abandoned by her father. Her mother fell to insanity from this abandonment. Rani would definitely have saw this, and that would have definitely built her internal struggle, and by proxy, her hate of everything to do with the Golden Order, aka Radagon's second family. This adds even more complexity, which to other characters, if they added it into other games, would have just seemed like some evil moment where they were just cartoonishly, childishly evil for absolutely no reason other than the plot. At each of their cores, they are consumed by their feelings, their wants, their desires, whether that be power, freedom, or love. It's the same concept, and I feel Elden Ring did it so well. And it's not just this trauma that is so very human. There's the very much human misunderstandings. For example, my favourite is Mesmer and Marika. Mesmer breathes his last breath, believing that his mother, Marika, abandoned him in this land of suffering, sent him on a bloody crusade, and left him there to rot. Marika dies thinking that Mesmer thinks she abandoned him, that she does not love him, even though we see statues in the Lands of Shadow of Marika carrying Mesmer. The reality is, Marika is trapped inside the erdtree, imprisoned. Neither party knows the truth, and they both die living a lie. This symbolism is so beautiful, and it's these little details that are so very human that make up Elden Ring's so very amazing story. And it's not just these characters which are so amazing in their complexity. There's characters like Melania, you've got characters like Millicent, you've got characters like Moog. All these characters combined together lead to this really interconnected feeling world where everyone seems to have their own role. A lot of games fall victim to the idea that you are the centre of this universe. Yet with the complexity, you could really feel like you're just a bystander walking through someone else's story, which in my opinion is what Elden Ring and games like it, in some cases, should feel like, if of course done right. Sadly everyone, that is the end of the video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel. I'm not going to hold you any longer, please friends, don't you dare go hollow, and may you find your worth in the waking world. Goodbye everyone.